is such a special place. You can be from anywhere in the world and you'll be welcomed with open arms.
So we don't really need massive introductions because we've been here before. Second time down on the farm.
Yeah.
I know not many people have made two goes on it.
Yeah, I'm an illustrious company. It must be.
Let's see.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me.
No, thanks for coming
Great
out.
having you guys down again. So.
Obviously some big changes, which we'll get to.
Yeah.
I just want to start by thanking you for sponsoring the podcast, man.
Well, no, it's our pleasure. It really is.
Yeah, it really helps us with, like, our aim is to support as many Birmingham food and drink hospitality businesses as we can. And when we get support like this, it means that we can.
Yeah.
And we can try and do a bit more for them, So start by saying thanks very much for that, mate.
Well, no, honestly, it's our pleasure. And I think, like, as a small business, you've got this kind of almost overwhelming array of things that want to take your money. And, like, genuinely, I would say the hardest thing for us, I mean, there's lots of hard things, but one of the hardest things for us is to market our business. And you've got marketing agencies and you've got Google ads or Meta or things to spend your money on. And in our experience, the vast majority of that has been kind of like either completely unsuccessful or like overtly parasitic. Like, honestly, people just out there to sell you snake oil and stuff like that. So we're just thinking, well, actually, who do we want to talk to? And we want to talk to, like, not only your listeners, but the people who come on your podcast. I mean, your podcast, you look at genuinely, when I'm drawing up sort of like targets for where we want the rum or which bars we want our rum on, I look at your podcast and your episodes and like, that's a cool place, they're cool, he's a cool dude. And it really is like a who's who of who's, doing good things in food and drink in our local area. So, like, I think in terms of the people who listen to your podcast, I think the least you would expect is that the people who've been on your podcast might listen to it. So, I mean, it's a great thing. And I think, like, it's authentic, it's ground up. You've got no ulterior motive and you're just passionate about what you do. So we're just like, yeah, box ticked. Let's do that.
Stop it, man. We're on video now. We're really bad at taking compliments.
No, that's the end of it. We're done now.
I've said everything you told me to say anyway. So
people can see us blushing.
Yeah,
here.
exactly. Yeah.
I'm lapping it up, man.
Nah, man, we appreciate it. And it's something we didn't really envisage when we started the podcast. We didn't dream that people would listen to us in their prep kitchens and stuff like that. And the amount of people in the industry that say, "Oh, we listened to you in the kitchen the other day," and stuff. We're like, "What?"
100%.
But obviously, it's not us. It's the
we
guests,
listen to it in here. Like, like, it's great. On the forklift, lonely hours, sort of moving stuff about and things. And that was sort of an epiphany thing. Well, I'm listening to it at work. Maybe there are people behind the bar prepping or in the kitchen prepping or, doing the accounts of a hospitality business, local to us in Birmingham and the surrounding area who might be doing the same. So, yeah, if they can know about us through doing this, then that's a winner.
Awesome. So I don't want to go in too much detail how we've begun, but there is going to be quite a few people who only watch podcasts on YouTube and only watch videos of podcasts, so they wouldn't have heard the first episode. Obviously, if you want to go back and listen, that'd be brilliant, and you can hear how much detail we went into. But we've got to go into it a little bit. Where did Burning Barn come from?
Yeah, so where we are now is my family farm, so a fruit farm originally, and I guess the genesis of the idea in terms of just going into booze in a completely sort of general way has always been percolating, and it's a really common diversification for fruit farms. So in the early 2010s, you've got this big gin boom, loads of fruit farms making gin, and quite a few going into beer and cider and stuff. It's quite a traditional thing. And so we'd been thinking about that as a way of sort of diversifying the business and potentially creating a few more income streams and stuff like that. And it was something that looked really fun. But when we were thinking about it, it seemed like gin was saturated market already there, like then. So that was in like mid 2010s. Beers, like really competitive, really hard to make good beer. It's really, really hard to do. I mean, making good rum's pretty hard as well. But so we kind of were thinking about it. And then in 2015, September 2015, our farm burnt down. We had a massive fire on our farm. And that was the catalyst. Mainly seeing my dad like rebuild his business in a year. That was the catalyst for like, one, it gave us the inspiration for the brand and the flavors. So we've got a Burning Barn on the label. We've got a smoky smoked rum, a fiery spiced rum. But it was also the inspiration for actually doing it, because the logic was like, if Dad can watch his like 30 years work burn to the ground and then rebuild the business in a year, like huge, like ridiculous amounts of stress, but ultimately, like logistically, practically, he went from a smouldering wreck, like complete disaster, to a functioning, profitable business in a year. It seemed, well, we don't have any of those dramas to start with. Maybe we can get something off the ground. So Catherine's background, she worked for the supermarkets. I was in the army at the time. It felt like this huge insurmountable thing before the fire. And then the fire just put everything into perspective. And I was actually like, well, let's give it a go. And so that's how we started.
Were you? I never asked this in the first episode, but were you here at the time? Were you around the farm when it happened?
No, I wasn't.
You
No,
were out?
no. I was in the army at the time. So I was based up in Catterick, up in North Yorkshire. And my brother phoned me up, who lives in the village. He's a doctor. And and I could hear this massive like explosions and crackling, and he was sort of laughing a bit, and he was like, mate, yeah, well, it's like, if you don't laugh, you cry. It's like,
Everything's on fire here.
you never guess what's going on here. And then he just sent me a video of the barn on fire, and I was like, oh shit. So yeah, I wasn't here at the time, but I think pretty rapid, I sort of got in the car and drove back, and got a few sort of friends together, and it was all sort of just all hands to the pump sort of thing,
Was it
just
like that straight away? Or there was no like, oh my God, what the fuck? Like,
Like,
yeah,
sit
I
back,
mean,
wave.
honestly, it was. I think the first thing was like, is everybody okay? Obviously, and then the second thing was like more focus on Dad, because people can be really affected by traumatic events like that kind of stuff, and you don't want having a heart attack or something like that. So it was like, is Dad all right? And then it was, I think we're very practical as a family. Like we can make like the most minor things a drama, but when it's actually kicking off, it's
That's
just
a nice noise
nature
to
around
have.
here. Yeah,
we're on a farm.
yeah. There's some sort of chaffinch or something stuck in the roof. Yeah, when it's actually kicking off and when it's a serious drama, we're pretty good in a crisis. So it was just sort of game face on. Yes, I don't remember there being too much sort of that kind of reaction, but maybe that's just, I might just be giving myself credit in retrospect. I don't know.
Maybe you forget the pain sometimes.
Yeah,
So it could be a little bit of that.
Could be that. Yeah.
Because I bet it was. I mean, I bet it was scary for a start, but then for your dad to watch his whole kind of life work up in smoke.
Yeah, I think I've not been through anything similar.
So since we last recorded, there's been a load of changes. Obviously, the biggest one, you're not in the army anymore. How did that come about?
Yeah, well, part of the purpose of setting up the business was to have like an exit strategy from the army. It's one of those organisations that like you get institutionalized into really quickly, and for lots of good reasons, because you get paid at the end of the month, you get subsidized housing, somebody sorts out your food. It's really it's a brilliant organization in that regard, but it's also it does make it relatively sort of hard to leave, and then also because you go through these super intense experiences with the people that you're in there with, it forms a really large part of your identity as well. I loved being in the army as well, so I think in order to get out, I wanted to get out to do something that I was really passionate about. And so we started Burning Barn in 2017, and then I got out in 2020. And we kind of had a decision point on it that I would get out when it was in a position to kind of pay the mortgage. And it's a bit of a chicken and egg situation, because you hope that your contribution to the business is going to, like, being full time in the business is going to, like, account for a kind of, like, commensurate increase in the productivity of the business as well. So it was always like a pretty tricky decision of when to pull the trigger on it. And then we did it in the middle. I basically sort of got out of a really secure job in the middle of a global pandemic, whilst trying to sell to a hospitality industry that was getting kind of cut off at the knees. But yeah, managed to sort of do it and ride it out, sort of partly due to just luck of how our business was set up, and we were really focused mostly on the on-trade shops and retail and stuff like that, rather than restaurants and bars that were getting closed down. And we were also set up for e-commerce, sort of online stuff. And it turns out that Brits like to have a drink during national crises, and that first lockdown was it was like 2 Christmases on our website. So
was it like at first it was a bit quiet, and then all of a sudden it was like,
yeah. It was at first it was just kind of adjusting to the reality of what was actually happening and trying to work out what was going on. And then when it turned out that, yeah, it looked like everybody was getting locked in, everybody started ordering booze.
Yeah, I was looking through my photos the other day, and I'm not joking. Went back and was looking at old, because Connie wanted pictures of when she was little.
Yeah.
And I'm not joking. I was seeing like pictures of my wine orders and stuff of when I picked up booze from shops.
Yeah.
I'm not joking. I was buying like 10 bottles of wine at a time.
We pivoted to do a booze delivery service. So we were already, obviously, it was selling to wholesalers. And so when the wholesale van comes by to pick up an order that they've from us, we would order from them at the same time. So they'd drop off, crates of wine and beer and everything. And then we did a local booze delivery service all around the local area as a kind of pivot. Everybody was just in action mode, weren't they? I think it was just like, how do we insulate ourselves from this? How can we pivot? And how can we make sure that we don't go under? So yeah, we did a couple of massive, I say massive for us, we just big adjustments, just Hail Mary shots. And that's actually how we ended up in some of the supermarkets, was actually the pandemic hitting, because we knew like this is going to be massive and we need to make some really big adjustments to our strategy.
how did you fit into the business when you went full time? I say this because I just listened to the old one today.
Yeah.
And there's a funny part where Catherine says, if Harry ever does go full time, I am going to have to schedule a monthly disciplinary for him.
Yeah, it's been more frequent than monthly, I think. But I think the luxury that we had was that 2 years of preparation where Catherine was doing it full time and I was doing every spare day and holiday that I had. So we already had like really clear roles. And I think we probably mentioned it in the first one, our interests and abilities align really well. So the stuff that Catherine's good at, I'm terrible at. The stuff that I like doing, Catherine doesn't like doing. And so I just slotted straight into the sort of production and operations side of it with a bit of marketing and kind of strategy. And Catherine does all of the nitty gritty, like attention to detail. That's her strength. And business governance, being the boss, like, and also really nailing the big deals and export. So yeah, I did have a lot of disciplinaries, and I did get dialed in a few times, I think, for some rogue behaviour. But in terms of slotting to the business, it was really seamless. And actually, the pandemic helped massively because I was doing a training job in the army at the time So everybody had to categorize what they were doing as essential or non-essential. And my job entailed running a 10-week course where we would get people from all different units across the army and then bring them to a central training bit and do some specialized training with them. And so obviously in the context of a pandemic, that's a nightmare because essentially what we were running was a massive super spreading kind of like incubator for COVID. So we were deemed non-essential training, and I was working from home in the army for essentially the whole of 2020, which gave me a great opportunity to get paid, do the work that I could do for the army, but also essentially have, you know, a really decent preamble into doing this full time.
Did you love it straight away? Another thing you said in the last one was you said like you feel like you're not sure if you love it so much because you can step away and go and get away in the army for a little while.
Yeah, I love it being like my own thing, and I also love having like a creative output, and I love the feedback that you get. You get tangible feedback. It's such a simple thing that we're doing. It's like you have an idea about a flavor, basically, and then you go through this creative process where you try and make that flavor, you try and achieve that idea that you've thought about, and then you offer it to other people. And some of those people go, I like that, I'm going to pay you a bit of money. And it's just the most simple transaction, and you're creating a tiny little moment of happiness, and you get that tangible feedback, which I wasn't getting in the army. So I loved, and I knew I'd love all of that straight away. I think the thing that I found challenging was being on my own. I mean, essentially, you know, there's 5 of us kind of now, but even with that, most of the day is kind of solitary work, and that's completely the opposite to being in an organization like the army, where it's just a people thing. You're interacting, and you know, you have the banter with the boys and stuff. And so I did love it, but it's definitely been challenging. The sort of realities of being an entrepreneur in like a super competitive market as well is also challenging as well.
What would you say was your biggest challenge, or maybe not biggest, maybe one that was, once you overcome it, you were like, oh, thank God, and now we can learn from that?
God, I don't know. I think the biggest challenge is coming to the realization when you're running your own thing, it always feels precarious. It feels like it might just go at any moment, and it could do. I mean, you just have to look at the landscape of the drinks industry or hospitality. I mean, we could list any number of venues or brands that have gone to the wall, you know, since we've been going. And so just like having that kind of sword of Damocles hanging over your head the whole time is just, I guess the challenge is just accepting that that's how it feels. That's what it's like to run a business. And I don't know if Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk feels like that, but I reckon it's universal with people running their own thing, that even if you have really great achievements, you constantly sort of feel like, maybe it might all go tomorrow. So I think just getting your head around that, maybe.
I imagine they definitely do. And I think it's that probably makes those and yourself successful. I think it's that feeling deep down, I've got to work, every day I've got to get up and do my best. And
I think that, and I think comparing yourself to others as well is a really dangerous thing. But so it's just so tempting. It's so easy to do as well, especially when you've got sort of LinkedIn or an Instagram and stuff like that. You're constantly seeing people, and like, again, I think it depends on your mindset in the day. If you see a sort of somebody else in your industry and they're nailing it, and you think, oh man, we're not doing that, or it puts stuff into sharp relief. But you just got to kind of try and reframe it and use it as inspiration or fuel or whatever. So I think those two are my answers for now, I reckon.
But do you ever step back and think, oh, we've come a long way here, we're doing really well? You don't? I think you should.
I think we do. Yeah, we try to do it consciously. And that's what we do when we're having a wobble and things aren't going well, or we're having a tough day. I think we said, there are times where we're thinking, is it worth it and stuff? And we sort of shake ourselves and say, we can't quit the thing that we quit our jobs for. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can't, and you've got to just shake yourself and say, you're doing, loads of people dream about running their own business, and we've got this ridiculous opportunity. Not very many people have got like a farm and a barn that they can sort of like move into, and we're so lucky in many ways that you kind of have to shake yourselves and reframe it, and
making the most of them opportunities, isn't it?
100%. Yeah, 100%.
You've got this awesome setup now. It's like the changes since we were last here is unbelievable. Like, you were in a shipping container.
Yeah.
I think round the back. You opened it up and you're like, this is us. And it was nice and cozy, and you could see you had your little machine. And now this feels like this is a real operation.
Yeah.
You got branded boxes over there. And
yeah.
Cool.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I think it's been an awesome journey so far. And sure, we've got family farm and stuff like that, but we did start in a shipping container, and we got a Tesco's listing from a shipping container. And when you get like a listing with a big supermarket, they have to come and check that you're a safe supplier, somebody who's going to be providing a quality and like safe product. And so we had the technical director for Tesco's come and visit us, who is presumably usually going to visit, massive like Unilever factories and stuff like these little amazing things. And came to visit us in a shipping container during COVID. And I think it just goes to show that, like, the phrase, in business, if you take as big a bite as you can and then chew like hell, you can achieve things. So I think like being here now and having been in the shipping container, having done it sort of in a real bootstrap kind of fashion, has given us a lot of lessons in terms of how we operate now as well. I mean, this amount of space is just a luxury compared to that.
As you've grown, do you still like use the wood chips from the apple trees? And you still do that? And you talked about hand grinding spices and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I think with any business, the temptation is to try and find like efficiencies and do things in a simpler way. But I think in sort of the last year, we've realized like what our strength is, and it's about the flavors that we put into the rum and stuff. So we've doubled down on that kind of almost manual way of making it, and we've made a couple of recipe tweaks to really maximize the flavor in everything. We use applewood from the trees, so the trees that are no longer producing fruit, we fell them, we chip and season the wood, then we toast the wood in order to get like the sort of flavors out of it, and then we use that to infuse a smoky flavor into our smoked rum. And then with the spiced rum, we use whole spices, and we roast the whole spices by hand, and then we infuse the whole spices into the rum while it's still hot. So you get this like really intense kind of aromatic infusion into the rum. And we doubled down on it. So we used to use allspice like pimento powder, but now we've changed to using the allspice berries. And we roast them whole, and then we grind them down, and it's really, so the latest batches of spice is absolutely amazing. It's giving it like an even more sort of incredible flavor, like really amazing kind of allspice element in there as well now. So and then the honey, we're using English organic honey, some of which comes from our own beehives. So I think it's about just like understanding what's our value proposition, like what are we doing that other people aren't doing, and it's that really. And
So what ones did you have when we came the first time? What were you making?
do you know what?
I think you only had two.
I
Or
think we just had the
rum?
spiced and the smoked.
Yeah.
Honey had just come out.
I think
Had it
honey
just
had
come out?
I think you've done something on Instagram where people could pick.
Oh, a flavour or something.
I think I remember asking a question about that.
Yeah. So we started off with the spiced and the smoked, and they're both. So the spice rum, we were like really deliberate about when we started. We'd read a few business books and we watched a couple of YouTube videos, and people talk about differentiation, and there's no point trying to compete in a really competitive market on the same playing field as everybody else. And what we noticed was that spice rums generally had the same flavor profile, which is kind of cinnamon, orange, vanilla, nutmeg, that kind of like baking spices, delicious and quite sweet. So we're like, well, it needs to link to the story. It wants it to be inspired by the fire. We're inspired by, like British Indian cooking and the way you temper spices in a pan before adding them to a curry or a paste. And so we trialed that, and we've got this amazing, like aromatic, quite dry, fiery spiced rum. And then we've got a smoked rum. It's got this smoky applewood smoke flavour. Again, quite grown up sort of palate. And what we noticed in consumer, like if we were at a market stall or a trade show or something, if you had 3 people come up to us, one person would love the spiced rum. Another person might love, if they drank whiskey, they might love the smoked rum. But then maybe the third person in the group, neither of those flavours were for that person. And then somebody said, "Oh, do you do a honey rum?" And we've got beehives on the farm. And so that was the immediate light bulb moment. It's like, no, we don't do one, but I'm going home right now. And it was the easiest recipe development ever. It was literally bit of that, tastes amazing. So yeah, we started off the spiced and smoked. Now we've got the honey in the main range, and then we do 1 limited edition a year. So we've done 3 limited editions so far. And that's always kind of like a bit more experimental. It's always a collaboration with somebody local-ish. And then there's a charitable element to that as well. And we also use it as like an incubator or a trial for any ideas that we think might make the main range. And so if we have like an amazing response to one of our limited editions, that can force its way into sort of the starting lineup kind of thing. And that's what's actually happening with our apple. So we did an apple rum, a cider barrel-aged apple rum with cider makers called Saxby's in Northamptonshire. Yeah. So a little bit further that way. The response was just awesome. Everybody loved it. And we kept on getting, ever since we've done it, people have asked, "Oh, are you doing the apple one? Are you doing the apple one?"
Yeah, you very kindly sent me a bottle. It went down very well.
And obviously it ties in perfectly with our story being on an apple orchard. So yeah, we're launching the spiced apple in May this year. So that's going to be a big one for us. But yeah, so we're going to have the 4 core range, and then we're also doing ready to drink cans as well. So that's a massive growth in what we do as well. So
I'm going to take a leap here and say this was your partner's idea, because it's quite a savvy move.
What, the cans?
Yeah.
That's really annoyed me that you've...
No way was you...
Yeah, it was Catherine's idea. Yeah, you've absolutely nailed that. Yeah, it's her project completely. And
it's a great idea.
Yeah, I think like it's I think people are just changing the way that they drink a little bit maybe, and they like convenient. People place a real premium on convenience, and events, more and more events are kind of moving that way. I think if you're at a gig, it's actually, if you've got a pint, you just spill it all over yourself, don't you? But a can is much more practical in that kind of environment and stuff.
Train journeys for me.
Yeah,
I love a kind of cocktail on a train journey, something like that.
And not very many people were doing it with rum, and certainly not in that like premium category that we're in. So it's generally, if you get a rum and mixer in a can, it's kind of one of the big guys, Captain Morgan's, Sailor Jerry's, Bacardi, that kind of thing. And they're quite, we would say, relatively low status. It's kind of quite a teenage sort of offering. I mean, it's great, but maybe if you're a young professional on the train home from work, you don't want to be caught by your boss drinking a Captain Morgan's and Coke. But actually, imagine if you were drinking like an Edinburgh gin, rhubarb Edinburgh gin can with tonic. That's like credible and adult, isn't it? So that's essentially what we want to do with our cans. Is actually loads of people love spiced rum and cola. Honey rum and our honey rum and lemonade is absolutely amazing in a can. We do a smoked rum and ginger in a can, and it's just like creating that parity and that credibility almost within rum, which you've got in gin and whiskey and beer, but rum's sort of maybe slightly lower status, and we want to try and change that basically.
It does seem to have sort of that status you're on about compared to like a whiskey or something like that. Because I'm mad for rum, mad for all spirits to be perfectly honest, but rum's one of my favourites, and I've got quite expensive bottles. And I keep getting told, don't worry, they'll appreciate in value. And it's still not compared to a whiskey bottle that would definitely appreciate in value. There seems to be still some type of hold off on the rum side because there's just as much work goes into it, and it's just as complex as all the others.
100%. I think it's because the category, it's by far and away the broadest spirit category in terms of you can have like a white rum which is barely distinguishable from vodka because it's been through a massive distillation process that's purified it, and essentially you've just got like a neutral white spirit flavor, to completely the other end where you've got like a hugely artisanal process with aging and flavoring, and then you've got the flavored aspects as well. It's just got this massive range from very, very low value kind of ropey products to super premium aged products. And I think because it's such a broad category, it almost, if you think about the middle of that category, that's where probably most people's perceptions lie. Whereas with Scotch whiskey or something like that, the middle of that category is kind of way up there because you've got those barrels of whatever it is going for £40,000 or upwards, £200,000 for a barrel. So
it's a status game as well, though, isn't it? And it's also the stories of some of them distillers, them whiskey distillers in Scotland and Ireland. They go back like years, years and years and years. So there's a prestige to the story, but also it is a little bit like, wow, it's a bit like a Ferrari's about the same as any car really on the road. It does the same thing. But obviously a Ferrari is a million times more expensive because it's a status symbol.
Yeah, 100%.
The same with whiskey, and rum just doesn't yet have that status.
No,
it has enthusiasts who would appreciate the value of a really good rum, but just to the average Joe, he wouldn't be like showing off his bottle of fancy rum.
No, I think it's far less. Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's far less recognised. But the great thing about it is, and the sort of like the thing that keeps us going is, loads of people drink rum. And it was one of the things that convinced us to start the business in the first place, was that we looked at gin and it had like, I think 11% of the market share of the spirits in the UK. And there was maybe 600 or 700, I think almost 1,000 UK gin brands and distilleries. And then we looked at rum and it had maybe 9 or 10% of the market share. So it still had a huge amount of people drinking it. But at the time we started, there was like, 20 rum brands in the UK. And so it seemed like a really like big area of white space to aim at. So you've got this groundswell of sentiment towards innovative flavours, interesting stories, craft credentials and those kind of things, local sourcing, looking beer, looking gin, all of those things are relevant. And so there must be some overlap there between the rum drinkers and that kind of feeling. That's kind of what we're trying to do, is just trying to provide those innovative flavors, like a great story and delicious liquid to people who like rum and value those things, basically. So
I think this would be a good time to go into the tasting.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah,
obviously all this sound of rum, and they're sitting there just looking at us over there.
Yeah.
So there we've got the brands in front of us.
So we're going to start with the smoked, which is like the original,
The OG.
the original one. And yeah, we were inspired by the Smoke Rum old fashioned cocktails that you get, under the cloche with the actual smoke in there. And the fire obviously gave us the inspiration for the flavors as well. So it all kind of meshed into one thing. And then we've also got the resource to actually make it. So the applewood from the trees. And yeah, we're just looking for that amazing kind of
Smell the
aged
smoke.
rum base.
It smells lovely. I did used to drink rum
Yeah,
years
I used
ago.
to like rum,
yeah,
I
rum
remember
was my
that.
thing.
So you've
yeah.
got that kind of like traditional dark rum kind of flavorings going on there, like molasses, caramel, bit of vanilla in there, and then hopefully after that you should get a smokiness, but quite a sweet, subtle smokiness because it's applewood that we're using rather than oak or hickory gives like a really punchy,
Yeah.
smokiness.
Almost like
yeah.
a smoky bacon kind of smell to it.
Yeah, some people.
Oh, it's great.
It's good, isn't it?
It's one of my favourites anyway. I love
Yeah.
a smoke. Anything smoked or smoke like mezcal or anything like that.
Yeah.
Even my whiskies, I like the peaty ones.
Yeah. I mean,
that's nice.
same here. And we say to people, like, if that's your thing, if you like a smoky whiskey, you like an Islay or something, then, and you like rum, then this kind of profile sort of sits somewhere along that. And, we always say that if we've got one chance to impress someone, we'll do a smoked rum old fashioned with our smoked rum.
Yeah.
That is like the apex of Burning Barn Rum. That's like what that single drink, that single sip, like embodies it. And
But
so
that's like, yeah, that's like I could sip that. I wouldn't even have to mix that with anything.
yeah, and that's what it's for. That's our kind of our hero sort of product, basically.
If you didn't want to go banging out a cocktail, what would you mix it with? A bit of ginger or something?
Yeah. So again, we're not too. Quite a few people get sort of uptight about how to drink the rum and things like that. However you like it, mainly. But we think it works really, really well with ginger ale or ginger beer in a dark. We call it dark and smoky. But again, it goes any kind of cocktails that you would use as a smoky whiskey or a mezcal go really well with the smoked rum. So if you do a Paloma with grapefruit and lime, it goes amazingly
I was going to say
with
that'd be a
the
good one.
smoky element.
That's one of my favourite ones to make at home. That
Yeah. We love that, and we're actually doing these bar barrels. So basically, do a little 3-litre oak barrel that we're giving out to. So Smoke's got one down in Hampton Manor.
Oh, nice.
Smoke and Ash are going to get one for their cocktails, and it just gives venues an opportunity to pre-batch old-fashioned in a cool barrel that they can have in their bar. Basically, because we were just realizing that people were just going through bottles of smoked rum so quickly that actually, is there a more efficient way of doing this? and you get the benefit of actually having the barrel as well, which adds flavour to the cocktail. So, yeah, we move on to the spiced rum, which it's got ginger, chili, allspice, vanilla, and coconut.
Get the allspice straight away.
Yeah.
Don't you?
And yeah, the key change that we've done this year is using the whole allspice berries.
I was going to say it's
And-
got aniseedy smell to it as well. What's that?
I think that must be from the allspice berries because, but yeah, I think the key things here is like the whole spices that we use and that we roast them beforehand. So we put them in a massive copper pan, one of the pans from the toffee making actually, and then we put a really, really we char them quite hard, and so that the coconut flakes almost get like a toasty kind of smoky flavor in there as well. But it also releases all of the oils and everything, so it should be quite punchy.
Oh, it's spicy, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not like you don't hold back on the spice either.
No.
Is that unusual? Like, I would assume most companies just use like fakes, like flavorings or
Yeah.
stuff like that. Yeah.
Well, I think, there's a massive incentive to be as efficient as you can, isn't there? When you're making these things, and there's a lot of other variables that are at play when you're trying to make a spirit, and things like clarity and we call it like flocculations, so solids within the liquid that can come out at certain temperatures. So you might have seen, I don't know, if you go into some big bottle shops, you can find some liqueurs and they'll go really cloudy at the bottom. And that's because of oils and stuff that are in solution, that come out of solution. So yeah, in answer to your question, the easiest thing to do is to get a synthetic essence or flavoring that is designed to dissolve perfectly in the liquid that you're trying to flavor, and then use that. And it makes life really easy, and it's much cheaper, but it would be inauthentic to what we're trying to do. So rather than go that way, we've actually gone further away from that and made sure that all the spices we're using are whole, and then we're roasting them by hand, which is a great story to tell, but we're sort of cursing ourselves when we're doing like roasting massive batches of the worst one's the chili, because you're sort of like gassing yourself when you're roasting the chili. So we're fully sort of PPE'd up with mask on, but we've maced ourselves a number of times.
I was gonna say, you can really tell, like most spice, because I used to drink a lot of spiced rum, to be honest, and I think spiced rum was probably the wrong name for it, to be honest, because it didn't really. Yeah. So we say something spiced, I expect spicy.
Yeah. I mean,
that one definitely
they're great, and a lot of the spiced rums, they're delicious, and they're sweet, and they're like got vanilla and cinnamon, and those are great flavors. But we just wanted to do something different that related to our story a bit more. Yeah, and so we went down that route, and it's not for everyone, but the people who like it really, really like it, and we find it works really well with a sweet mixer. So those traditional spiced rum profiles were like really similar to cola. If you think of what cola tastes like, it's sort of caramel, slightly botanical, vanilla, and you put a spiced rum in with that, it sort of gets lost. Whereas ours, hopefully, is complemented by a sweet mixer. Yeah, and so dessert, we always say like the smoked rum and the spice and the smoked rum are your sort of starter and your main, and the dessert is definitely the honey rum. So yeah, we just use a 2-year aged rum and then English organic honey.
That's nice.
Yeah,
that's really good.
Smooth.
And we
that's so smooth. You wouldn't know. I mean, I wouldn't know I was drinking that.
Yeah, it's a dangerous. I mean,
you could get through a lot of that.
You can get through a lot of that. Yeah, that's by far and away. And again, it's like we were umming and ahhing about. It's like a really big decision to bring another thing into the range, and you've got to promote it, and it costs you a lot of money and things. And we tasted it when we first were doing the recipe development on it, and it was so good.
Yeah, you're like the winner. Is that less alcohol than the others?
Yeah, that's 29%. So it's a liqueur, and so yeah, it's the perfect sort of companion to the other two, because it it's sweeter, and it's kind of a bit more approachable. It's incredibly moreish, and it's our bestseller, actually.
Is it?
Yeah.
I'd have guessed the smoked, if anything.
It instantly outstrips the other two, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah. It's got a great taste award.
Yeah. We've actually re-entered. I don't know when we got that actually now. 2021. So we re-entered all of our rums this year. So we're nervously awaiting the outcome, and hopefully the slight recipe tweaks we've done on the spiced rum should come good. But it's amazing by itself, the honey rum. But it also goes brilliantly with anything citrusy. So you can make an amazing mojito with it. Goes really well with the lemonade. It's a banger. And
like a hot whiskey, hot rum instead.
Incredible, incredible in a hot toddy,
yeah.
Or added to mulled cider or something like that. No, it's really good, and that's the great thing about rum as well, is that it's appropriate like all year round. You can make amazing summer drinks with it, but it's also really warming and cozy because it's got that kind of dark spirits thing going on. And then we sort of we're into limited edition and new products sort of territory now. So this one you're going to taste is our spiced apple. So this is unreleased. It's got the limited edition apple labels on it, but they're going to sort of look like this. But it's a slightly different recipe.
So would these be available to, like, say, if cocktail bars are listening, they'll be able to order some of them.
Yeah, definitely. We're gonna launch in May, hopefully, with the spiced apple. But we can get out samples to people who are interested. So yeah, get in touch. But yeah, this comes from, like I said, we did a limited edition with Saxby cider, and it was based on something called a pommeau, which is a spirit from Normandy in France, which is like a really big apple growing region, and they make Calvados there. Pommeau is essentially, they take the unaged Calvados, so it's still white, it's not been in a barrel, and it's basically a way of drinking the booze before it's been aged. And what they would do is they would add apple juice, like just freshly pressed apple juice, to the really high strength unaged Calvados, and then they would put that in a brandy barrel for a year. So they would drink that at sort of 20% as a liqueur. It's amazing. It's called pommeau. And that meant that they could drink the new make spirit after a year rather than waiting 3 years for the Calvados to age, kind of thing. So we took inspiration from that, and instead of using Calvados, we used our rum as the base, and then we blended it with Saxby's apple juice, and we put it in one of their cider barrels, and it was unbelievable. Everybody went bonkers about it. That sort of inspired us, right? The apple's got to be in the main range. We can tell a great story about it because we're on an apple farm as well. Yeah. The only addition is we've added a little bit of like mixed spice in there, so like that traditional baking spice. So hopefully it's kind of apple pie in a bottle. So you can tell me if I'm a bluffer or not.
No, you definitely get it. It's quite a lot of cinnamon in there.
Yeah.
Does it feel it's got like a strudel sort of
exactly? Yeah,
vibe to it.
Yeah. That's exactly what we're going for, and I think
it's all getting raisins as well. It's like in my head, it's there already.
It's like that, isn't it? Yeah. I'm so happy you said that. It's really like an apple strudel, isn't it? And I think what we try and do with all of the rums is, so for the honey rum, loads of people are doing honey liqueurs like Jack Daniel's honey and stuff like that. But when we tasted them, there was something a bit off about it. It's like, is this just got honey in it? And what we try to do is be as authentic as possible. And so our honey rum's only got honey in it. Like, it's got rum and it's got loads of honey in it. So it costs us quite a lot to make it, but we can be like confident when we're talking to people, like, it's worth what it's worth because of what we put in.
Yeah.
And we're trying to do that with the apple as well.
And imagine that would lead other people down the path of your other rums as well. If they're drinking that one, they're like, well, they've got 4 of the rums.
Yeah.
Let's try one of them ones.
Yeah, and we definitely have some superstar customers who sort of, you know, whenever we release a limited edition, the DMs are full of people being like, how do I get one? Can you reserve one for me? You know, asking for specific bottle numbers and stuff like that. So
that's nice. So he gets the first bottle from each batch.
You keep
it.
We keep all of the first bottles from.
So what's the number? What's the first bottle that leaves? What number bottles there?
It will be high single figures. It'll be, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 or something like that.
So have you still got the first number 1 bottle from the Smoked Rum somewhere?
Yeah, we've got the first ever bottle we produced, and storage is becoming a slight issue for those kind of things. But hopefully it'll be a cool thing to look back on. One of my best mates he tries to get a bottle from batch 1 of everything that we make. He's put quite a lot of pressure on me that they're going to fund his children through university. But I think he might be. I think he might just be hoping that that's the case, because I'm not sure that's going to be the case. But at least he'll have something nice to drink. When his kids are costing him lots of money at uni.
I mean, that's the worst. The worst case scenario is got something nice to drink.
Yeah, exactly. And then the last one is actually this year's limited edition, which we did with Quarter Horse Coffee from the Jewelry Quarter. And again, it's one of those ones that it's a coffee rum.
You get it straight away, don't you?
And it's one of those ones that people have been asking us to do for ages. And it's been done a lot, but we just, we love coffee and we thought we could do something really great. And it ticks all of those boxes for a limited edition for us. So yeah, it was.
What's that? Is it aged in brandy barrels as
Yeah,
well.
so we've basically taken a really amazing blend of aged rums, and then the guys at Quarter Horse did a sort of roast for us specifically to go in this. So we've got the amazing sort of punchy, treacly rum going with quite a fruity coffee. So it's got a lot of like berry notes in the coffee, as well as that amazing like chocolatey kind of coffee thing that you'd expect. And then we blended that together in a brandy barrel, so you get that kind of orange like candied peel kind of thing from the brandy, and it's at 40%, so it's not a liqueur like most coffee spirit things are, which have loads of sugar in them. And yeah, it's designed for a
This
espresso
one means
martini.
business.
Yeah.
It already tastes like an espresso martini.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? Yeah.
Did you not have it that time at Fox?
Fox and Chance.
Yeah.
Yeah. We did
Nice
coffee
espresso.
and donuts slightly differently, but
Yeah.
donuts and espresso martinis was pretty.
'Cause there's quite a
pretty
lot of
banging
coffee in there as well. You'd almost assume it was close to a liqueur.
Yeah. I mean, I find drinking espresso martinis can be quite an arduous process. Like after two, you're dealing with a lot of stuff, aren't you? It's like loads of sugar, loads of caffeine, and loads of booze.
They're good if you're on like an all-dayer. You're like, right, I need to pick me up.
Yeah. But actually taking a bit of the sweetness out of them works really well for me, and just having that unsweetened like coffee hit. And it's a little bit more complex as well because we're using that amazing freshly roast coffee from Quarter Horse. That espresso martini, but hopefully with a little bit extra as well. Yeah.
Did you approach them or did they approach you?
We approached them. Yeah. No, definitely with the needy sort of.
It was nice that they went through the extra effort of like brewing a specific kind of coffee as well, not just fobbing you off with whatever the headliner was.
Yeah, I mean, they are just another level. I mean, like coffee, you get these guys who are like into what they do, and I think the spirits world definitely attracts those type of people, but coffee is on another level. I mean, sort of hydrate the beans to a certain, specific hydration before grinding them, and it's like the detail that they go into is absolutely unbelievable and actually really inspiring. You sort of look at that kind of operation and the attention to detail they go to get really specific flavor profiles, and it was inspiring for me to come back and take stuff I'd learned from them and apply it to what we do.
Awesome. I think just got your questions.
Yeah.
Happy with the tasting? All went well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked it.
I
liked
think
it.
Carl's going to pretend he didn't record. He has to do it again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, the
That's
cameras
the
weren't on.
fifth time
Cameras
we've
weren't
done
on.
That's the fifth time we've recorded.
Yeah,
Carl's
exactly,
steaming.
That'd be great. Okay, just some quick questions.
Right, go for
They're
it.
never quick.
No,
and you've been.
I say so
Did we not
every
do them
time.
the last time? No, we didn't
think
do
I've
them.
listened to podcasts and
Yeah.
I
don't think we
swear,
were doing
like,
them,
right,
man.
I'm going to have some really good answers for this, but now I can't even remember what the questions were. So
It occurred to me they are hard questions.
you've got me against
If you
the
don't
ropes
think
now.
about it,
so-
I think about this stuff all the constantly.
Yeah.
But like most people don't, so I do appreciate this.
Yeah.
What's your favourite TV show?
Peep Show, I think.
Oh, that's a great answer.
Yeah,
I like
Peep
that
Show or
one.
The American Office, I think.
I like the American Office.
Yeah, just
Quite a lot.
comfort watch.
It's very different to the English Office, I find.
yeah,
like two different
It's more of a
shows.
straight comedy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Than a sort of mockumentary kind of thing. So.
It's that I think you got to get past the first series with the American Office. 'Cause
Yeah.
when they're trying to do all the English episodes,
Yeah,
you get past that and you get into the story, and it gets.
I mean,
really
it's the
good.
junk. It's junk food, isn't it? It's just like sugary, nutritious. Just like,
Yeah.
you can binge it.
I would just put it on. We'll just watch it, in
Yeah.
like 4 or 5 episodes, or
Yeah.
disappear straight away. Yeah, it's a good shout, that one. What's your favourite movie?
That is a good question. It's either two pretty contrasting movies. So it's either Platoon. So yeah, a bit of a Vietnam. sort
So
of-
is that not like a busman's holiday type film?
No, I mean I've not done anything quite as dramatic as that. It's brilliant. It's an amazing tale of sort of good versus evil.
Yeah.
Or it's Dumb and Dumber.
That is quite a contrast.
So I think probably, yeah, it very much depends on kind of what I'm looking for. But yeah.
What's your favourite band or artist?
Stone Roses,
Oh,
maybe.
that's a great answer. Yeah, don't change that.
Yeah.
That's a great one.
Yeah.
I like that. Do you like the new John Squire and Liam Gallagher stuff?
I've not heard
You know what? It sounds exactly like new Stone Roses stuff.
Does it?
Just
Yeah.
with Liam Gallagher.
That's amazing. Sort of come full circle, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
they were inspired by them, and now they're sort of
They're there.
they're sounding like them.
They're worth a listen, definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
Other than rum, what's your favourite spirit?
Whiskey, probably.
You got to risk which one do you like the most?
Anything sort of smoky. Yeah. So anything-
Islays.
Islays, yeah. Something like
Lafroig
Yeah.
or Lagavulin.
Lagavulin 16. really
Yeah,
good.
that's a standard, isn't
Great
it?
classic. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. And Arberg 10.
Yeah.
That's my sort of go-to now.
Yeah.
Mainly because it's half the price of the others.
Yeah.
But that's a pretty nice one. What's your favourite big fast food chain?
I think McDonald's, isn't it? I think, yeah. When you travel a lot with the army, and you end up going to a lot of service stations, and sometimes, yeah, Mackie D's is
That's
just
the one
hits
to
the
go
spot.
for.
You know,
What cocktail is your favourite that you make with your rums?
Smoked Rum old fashioned.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Straight away.
100%. Smoked Rum old fashioned.
How do you make it?
So we use apple molasses as the sweet element. So basically, that's just apple juice that's been boiled and boiled and boiled to make a treacle. You can actually get it from a place called Liberty Fields, which is a apple growers down in Dorset. Make amazing sort of artisanal apple syrups and juices and ciders and vinegars and things like that. But yeah, Liberty Fields apple syrup, smoked rum, just Angostura bitters. Obviously, stir that down for between 30 seconds and a minute, depending how dry you like it. Pour that over a nice big chunk of ice in one of our awesome rocks glasses, and then finish off with a pink grapefruit peel. And you can use an orange peel as well, but the pink grapefruit thing came from the Paloma. So I love a Paloma with a smoky mezcal. And I just noticed that pink grapefruit, that aromatic sort of like tartness of the pink grapefruit just goes so amazing with the smoky flavors. Mm-hmm. So we just tried it with the smoked rum, old fashioned, and absolutely unbelievable. Yeah.
What restaurant are you eating at the moment if you're going out for dinner?
Goodness me. To be honest, we went to Hickory's.
I was there yesterday.
Did you? Yeah. I mean, like, it's, it's not like haute cuisine or anything, but it's a great sort of atmosphere. It's a great place to go with the family.
Oh, you take the family and the kids. It's the best place I've ever took my daughter for a meal.
It's a
Like,
great
she loves it
experience. And the food's not bad at all. Like, it's really, it's genuinely like authentic American barbecue. It's delicious.
there. Yeah, we've been a couple of times. haven't we?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I just said
nice.
the atmosphere, like, and
It's
just
the atmosphere that sells it, definitely.
Yeah.
the kids as well. The way that it's set up for kids. My daughter, she's 8. She loved it. Like, I thought it was the best restaurant ever.
Yeah. No, we're desperate to get our booze in there, actually. So
Yeah, I
we're,
bet.
we're
There's a guy cherry soda, and a couple of them would go well with the cherry soda.
Yeah, I
that
think
cherry soda's
our
off
spiced
the,
apple
it's
has
insane.
got to be in there. So we're pestering them on a daily basis at the moment. So hopefully we'll get there.
What's your favourite food destination in the world?
This is the one I did have an answer for, actually. Amman in Jordan. So yeah, the capital of Jordan. So I just love sort of like Levantine, Middle Eastern food, like kebabs, like hummus, all of that kind of stuff. And yeah, it's actually not that far away from us. I don't know how long the flight is, sort of 5 hours. And I went there with work in my previous life. And you can go into almost any establishment in that city and get an amazing feed. Like, incredible. The way they use herbs in the salads, the breads that they make, just like super fresh, amazingly like light flat breads, everything like really amazing smoky, like slow cooked, like aubergine and tomato dishes and things. That spicing they use, that would be my desert island sort of destination, I think.
That's got to be the one and only time we probably ever hear Jordan.
Yeah, Jordan.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if it
Yeah,
comes up
fair
again.
I'd recommend it. It's an amazing place to go. It's like history piled on history. It's you've sort of got Roman and Byzantine.
Cool. Thanks very much for coming on and sharing your story again. Absolutely loved it again. And thanks again for sponsoring us. And really good to see you again, catching up, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
awesome.
good, man.
Well, thanks for coming. Appreciate it. Sorry the barn's not heated. I've been
So,
doing my best not to shiver here, but yeah, no, we're honoured to sponsor the podcast and love what you're doing. And our main incentive for doing it is so you record more episodes so that we can listen to it while we're on the forklift. So get out there and start asking your questions, because it's so awesome to hear what you're doing. And yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Harry.
Awesome.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
There it is. That's our first episode done, our sponsored episode with Burning Barn Rum. Thanks again to Burning Barn Rum for sponsoring.
yep.
Hope you've learned a bit more about them. Obviously, if you're a nice little craft bar or nice little cocktail bar or something like that, and you're listening, you like what they do, you love their story, go check out the show notes. You'll see obviously all the links so you can go and stock their awesome products. Thanks very much to you, the listener. We wouldn't be here, even with sponsors, we wouldn't be here without you. If you did love it, make sure you go and tell someone about it, because that really gives us a hand. Spread the positive Birmingham message. Thanks very much. Next up, it's the easy food one.